Helen, a nurse at a health center in her village, had faced challenges throughout her life. Like many others, she had fallen victim to unfavorable circumstances. Life was not very smooth for her, often riddled with hardships, and had lost its meaning to her. In fact, she was just idling, waiting for the cold hands of death. If there was anything she cared about, it was her little daughter Linda, who attended a primary school in the same village. Many girls face such crises. Only a few manage to handle them the way she did. Despite the hardships of life, her physical appearance was the kind that would merit a second glance from anyone who saw her for the first time. Even with an average height, she carried herself with such grace in her movement and posture that she could easily be mistaken for a model. Having a gorgeous dark complexion and plump physique, with such beautiful eyes that were capable of driving any man crazy. Little or nothing could be criticized about her. She was undoubtedly blessed with an amazing physique, but her life was far from being as blessed as her physical appearance. Her misery began in a small village in the Northwest Province of Cameroon known as Mboakwe. The Thanksgiving feast was just 3 days away. Every family had to stock enough food to live on for the period. The Fon of Mboakwe had 3 wives, Christy, Tifu, and Kata. Christy was the first wife, while Tifu and Kata were his second and third wives. Kata, the third wife, was a very kind and sober lady. Her kind behavior often attracted the attention of the villagers and the visitors who came to the palace. They all spoke well about her, while his second wife, Tifu, was not happy about it from the beginning. When Kata was first brought to the palace as a third wife, Tifu tried multiple times to cause trouble, but always failed because Kata would take the blame even for the things she hadn't done wrong and ask for forgiveness. After some time, Tifu let go of her hatred and accepted Kata as a friend. She soon realized that Kata was better kept as a friend than as an enemy. With no other option left, she decided to compromise and embrace their friendship. There was a significant age gap between them and Christy. While they always did things together, Christy preferred to stay apart. Christy had always blamed the failure of her relationship with her husband on Tifu's arrival at their home. When Kata also came, the situation worsened. Her husband became more interested in the younger wives and most often chose to sleep in their huts rather than hers. Over time, this tense situation developed into an atmosphere of isolation and hatred between the first wife and the other two. One early morning, Tifu and Kata left their huts well prepared for a brief farming trip. Although Tifu was smart and sharp, Kata, who was pregnant, carried a basket on her back and surprisingly outpaced her. The speed at which they walked showed the urgency of their trip. They were almost getting out of the other end of the compound when they saw Christy, who was also preparing to go to the farm. They paused for a moment and said good morning to her, who could be seen right inside her hut, packing up farm tools. She then slowly stepped outside. When she was outside, she turned to the ladies and responded, "Good morning, how are you? I hope you both slept well, Kata. I hope you feel much better now." Kata replied, "Sure, I don't think I have any problem with my head anymore." Christy then said, "See, I told you that by the time you finished eating those herbs I gave you, you would even forget that you ever suffered from a headache in your life." Tifu spoke up. "Abort, Christy, we are heading to the farm and we are already late. You know, today is our CWF group practice day." Christy replied, "You should have waited for me so that we go together. I'm also going to the Upper Bamboos farm, the same way you're going." This statement sounded so impulsive that Kata understood it, but she tried to control herself. Tifu, who was almost getting angry, said, "Abort, Christy, you know you haven't finished yet. You will join us later. Besides, you are not a member of the Christian Women's Fellowship. Even if you come back late, you won't bother." The indifference in her voice sent a stab into Christy, who then went into her shell. Christy said, "Okay, I will join you later, Abort," Christy said quietly with her lips parted. The two then left for the farm. As they left, Abort Christie fumed with anger, murmuring and speaking to herself. "Oh, bad woman! I don't belong to any group in the church. I don't even go to church. That's what they say. They call me a pagan and label me with all sorts of disrespectful names. Disrespect. They have forgotten that I am the first wife of this fondom. They even say I have given birth to a fool, as if I was the one giving children. Oh God, should I linger and allow myself to be dragged through the mud by these disrespectful, arrogant and intransigent women? No, not until I have given up the last drop of my blood. My husband, the one I suffered with all my life before he inherited his late father's position as Fon, has turned out to be my greatest nightmare. He no longer seems to realize that I exist. My husband, the Fon, is very sick. This is the time to act. Yes, this is the time, or else my children and I will be doomed forever. Yes, I must do something." She passed through her room and went into her kitchen. She took some food and some gameline. She poured some of it into the food and called for Tifu's eldest boy in the compound. "Tasi!" Christie shouted his name. "Yes, Mama?" "You are the eldest child in the compound. I know you like fighting, but take good care of your brothers and make sure they don't fight with each other. If I come back and hear that any of you did not fight, I will cook a big pot of nag tari for all of you. You like it, don't you?" Tasi nodded with an encouraging, broad smile. "Okay, take this food, and at sunrise you all should eat with Acha." She gave him the poisoned food. Tasi, not knowing what was happening, thanked her. "Go and keep it in your food box." Christie then called her son Acha and instructed him not to eat the food Tasi would give him. She said, "I am going to the farm. This is your food. When it's noon, take the food and eat it. Don't let the others know you have food here, understand? And listen very well. If Tasi calls you to come and eat, don't eat. You hear me? If you eat the food he will give you, you will die. Do you want to die?" Acha shook his head. Christie continued, "So don't eat anything he gives you, okay?" she warned him. Acha again shook his head while Christie hurried up to the farm. All sorts of sounds were coming from the kola nut tree at the edge of the small footpath leading to the spring. The birds that went far into the forest in search of food are now coming back for shelter. It was noon, and Tasi had to do exactly what he was asked to do. He went into her mother's hut and brought out the bowl in which the food was. He placed the bowl in the middle of the yard and then went to fetch the others. Tasi shouted, "Minang Lang, where is Acha? Acha, you and the others should come and eat." Minang Lang and Acha arrived, with Acha being the last one to join. They all sat down around the bowl, ready to eat. Minang said and went into the house. He came back quickly with no water. Minang exclaimed that the water was finished, the water jar was empty. Tasi then decided, well, she better hurry up to the spring and fetch some water. She told Minang to go ahead and eat while she went for it, Tasi said, and ran in the direction of the spring while the children began eating. Lang asked Acha why he wasn't eating anything. Acha replied that he wouldn't eat their food as he had his own. He mentioned that Mama kept it in her cupboard and he would go and get it. Acha said and went into the house for the food. Before he came back, Minang and Lang had eaten the food and died. Acha, who is almost a fool, didn't know what had happened. Instead, he riled them up. Acha called out to Minang and Lang, asking if they were sleeping, and announced he would eat their food. He stamped around and began removing the poisoned food from the bowl and placing it in his own. As if that was not enough, he took some and ate. For a moment, Acha continued to stare with unseen eyes, clutching his stomach, and then he began to vomit. He then collapsed against the two. Tasi returned from the spring and saw the three lying on the ground. He quickly ran to them, dropping the calabash of water, which then splashed as the jar was broken into fragments. He placed a hand on Minang's stomach and then tried to feel Lang by pressing his left ear on his chest, hoping to hear his heartbeat. But he soon realized that they were all dead. It was when he stared at Acha and noticed a faint upward rise of his chest, he quickly ran over and placed his head on Acha's chest. This time he felt a heartbeat. He carried the boy to a corner near his mother's hut and laid him on the ground. He then realized that Acha's breathing was heavy and difficult as he struggled to take off the soiled clothing the boy was wearing. Aka's eyes were closed, but his mouth hung open awkwardly, with a stream of undigested, grimed cocoyam suspension dripping down his left cheek. Within a few minutes, the beating stopped. Oh, he died too. Tasi cried and raised an alarm. The neighbors rushed over. A terrible tragedy had happened. 3 children from the same family were dead. Evening came, and the news of the tragedy had spread all over the village. To the villagers, one needed extra strength to be able to tell the story. They said it was a clear sign of bad things to come. Despite all the odds, the village council had to deliberate on the matter. The kinsmen, the fon, and other members of the community gathered around the big hall of the fondom. The women who were present were crying, and some of the men shed tears as well, feeling the pain of death. Even the strong-hearted men equally showed signs of grief. Several minutes passed, and the fon seemed like he was not part of the gathering. He was there physically, but one could tell his soul was miles away. He was frozen, and at the moment the hall seemed to echo silence as he covered his shaking head with his hand. Lifting his head, he stared at those present with unseen eyes. Trying to put his misgivings out of his mind, he decided to talk. It has never happened before. No, not in this land. Oh, unfortunately, this has happened to us. I smell it. There will be trouble. Great trouble. In one family, 3 children lost their lives so suddenly. But why? Why did you do this, Tasi? Why did you have to go as far as killing your own brothers? If it is something they did to you, why didn't you make it known to your father? You go as far as poisoning food that was kept for them. But Papa, I didn't kill them. I didn't poison any food. It was Abort Christie who gave me food to give to them. Shut up, you bad child. You have inflicted pain onto this community. Our land, like any other organized land, has gotten its laws firmly fixed by our customs. I think without wasting further time, the law should take its course. I'm sorry, but we have to offer this boy as a sacrifice. He has to accompany his brothers to the land of our ancestors in order to clean the land. I don't think we're going the right way in handling this matter. This boy here just said Christie gave the food to him. I think what we should do now is to turn our eyes and shift our questions toward Christie. Let's ask her. She should explain what happened to the food she gave the children to eat and what made her give them food today. There is evidence she is not used to giving the children food. Von TB, I'm very disappointed with you. I'm very disappointed with your judgment. This so much umbu and afafo you take will destroy you. So you think and find it possible that a woman will poison food for her only son to eat and die? Were you not here when Tifang and the others said they searched the whole place and found the container of gameline, which was used in poisoning the food in Tasi's mother's hut? I think his mother too mustn't be left out of the crime. She's deeply involved in it and should be banished from this village. His statement poured more fuel into a burning flame. Almost everybody was involved in an argument. While some villagers were saying Tasi may be innocent, others were deeply convinced that the boy had done it. The argument continued for a while, and after a long streak of abuse and insults, some elders managed and calmed the villagers present. At this point, the Fon stood up from his royal chair and walked slowly across the hall to a corner where you have the Mban. The Mban is a special spot in the palace where the living can communicate with their ancestors. He stood in front of the Mban for a few seconds and then said, "Oh, my forefathers, my ancestors, this is your humble servant standing in front of you. Oh, my ancestors, why me? Did I do something wrong? If I did, please pardon me. Look at me. I am tired and very sick. Look at me, my children. 3 of them dead on the same day. Why me? Why?" The Fon shouted so loudly and then stood still and then held his chest as if he was about to have a heart attack. The palace guards and some kingsmen rushed and held him. They supported him as he walked across the hall slowly. At the exit, he asked the guards to let loose of him. He turns around and faces the kingsman and says, "My grandfather did not work against the laws of this land. Neither did my father. I don't think I should. If the law of this land finds this boy guilty, then it should take its course." The next day, alongside Minang, Lang and Acha, Tasi was buried alive. The entire village came out to witness this strange and frightful occasion. The kinsman led the crowd to the grave. Next to follow were some youths who carried the mat-draped 3 dead children, while Tasi was forced to move by some angry bullies who tailed the crowd. At the grave, the bodies of the dead children were immediately placed in a 2-meter deep hole each. Tasi was placed in one that had been dug in front of the 3. Earth soil was used to cover the 3 while Tasi was stoned. After the 3 were buried, it was Tasi's turn. He then begged for permission to say something. After a long argument over whether he should speak or not, Mba calmed the crowd down and gave him permission to speak. Mba said, "What do you want to say, bad boy? Anyway, you can say whatever you want to say, but don't take long. You don't belong here. You belong to the dead." Tasi replied, "I hear you, father." But before he could continue, the crowd started stoning him again. He shouted and cried aloud in pain before he collapsed into the hole, while some started pouring dirt over him. As this was being done, a loud sound was heard from above. The cloud immediately darkened. Haphazard streaks of lightning culminated into a broad flash of light all over the sky. Thunder rumbled from above. Some of the heavy trees went crumbling down. A heavy downpour of rain burst from the heavens. The crowd that came for the burial took to their heels and made their way in different directions, yelling and searching for shelter. The god's own anointed has been touched. The atmosphere continues to rumble for a while, but after a few minutes it turns completely dark and quiet. For a moment the atmosphere was completely dark, and the only visible object was a sudden halo of light in the form of a fireball falling slowly from the sky, and then stopping and standing on top of Tasi's grave. After a few seconds, the light structure started moving upward directly on top of Tasi's grave. It went up straight till it disappeared into thin air. The sky brightened again, but at this instant nearly everybody had left the place. This event dominated the discussion of the day in the village. As if these signs were not enough, the people went ahead to send Tasi's mother out of the village. Just like Tasi, a large crowd escorted his mother. Before she stepped out of the boundary of Mboakwe, she stood at the border of the village. She then turned and faced the crowd that had been following her and shouting words of mockery. With her small luggage all tied in a loincloth in one hand, she bent down and scooped domed dust in the other. She raised the dust-filled hand and spoke. "Oh, merciful and just God, look at this and judge. I stand here in grief and shame. I'm being accused of a crime that I know nothing of. In front of you, Lord, with hands wide open, I declare my innocence. I'm confused and desperate. Where do I go? You know I am an orphan. Oh God, take me your way. It is better to end it that way than to face this hopeless world. Almighty and everlasting God, as I turn my back on this land, let thy will be done." She then blew off the dust in her hands, and it spread in all directions.